Listen, there are so many pastors who are anointed to become global pastors, but they are still speaking to 3 people. There are so many politicians who are supposed to be big politicians, who are just at the sideline. You have been appointed. Everybody sees the oil on you. Everybody can attest that the hand of God and Kasa is on you. But you have to go to the wilderness. The wilderness is your state of preparation. In every church, we have people we feel that they are working. People will feel like, Charlie, this guy is supposed to be prayer secretary. This guy, the way he's doing is organizing, he's supposed to be organizer. The way he's doing evangelism, he's supposed to be evangelism coordinator. So now, if you make it theocratic in a way, then when you go and pray, God sets it to the heart. But man looks at the inward, outer, sorry. So man will look at what you are doing to say you deserve it. But God will see your heart and say you are not supposed to have it. When God is appointed, He does not pick the perfect picture. He picks what others overlook. So He picked David when he was outside the selection. He picked Saul at the time that there was a revolution, and the one who led the revolution was there. If the people reject you, it doesn't mean that you are rejected by God.
Hello guys, what's up with you all? It's a new face. I'm Nana. Today we have something very insightful to discuss with you, but before that, watch this video.
So it has been reported, say, Abundant Life Assemblies of God Church at Boshen Edumenu has been closed down by the Central Police, all because of leadership misunderstanding. Church members say, Omo will be a obabe replace software or retire, and now all retire. And national phone say there be almost will be a modern neighbor, and because of this, a lady Amaye Klusi church it down. Now, way back in 2024, the same incident happened. That time, now Reverend Menu and why software oba.
Hello, guys. My name is Pastor Julius. I was here the last time, and we are going to learn something new today too. I want you to stay tuned and follow us. Welcome to Everything Will Be.
Charlie, since they go on, they bro. Because looking at the story, the base of the story, a pastor has involved himself in the church for so long, invested his time, his energy, his resources, and now the national whatever wants to bring their own person to lead the church. I don't think it's fair. What do you think about it?
The truth is that I think it's church politics. And it is in most churches. Appointing leaders and succession states, sometimes it's dicey. So there are some churches that at the moment, when their pastor dies, they don't really know what to do. And so the tendency for the church to go to the next generation will depend on how we arrange the transaction of succession. Talking about who leads after the head pastor is not there. So let me explain something. It's when I say church politics, people try to make the word look like an evil word. It looks like
politics itself sounds evil. So.
Yes. So it looks like it's something that we are not supposed to be involved as Christians. But the church has always been involved in politics one way or the other. If you go to the book of Acts chapter number 6, the Bible says that a time came when Jesus went back to heaven. The church was trying to form their foundation. They were growing in number, and the leader of the church by then was Peter. Peter had an arrangement for the widows and those who were orphans, whereby they were taking gifts from normal givers in the community to these widows and these orphans. Now, it got to a time that there was agitations within the widows, because some widows were claiming, in those days, Israel actually was divided into two. There was a northern sector and a southern sector. The people from the northern sector was complaining that the southern sector people are not really being fair to them. So when the gifts come, it's like maybe Accra. When the gifts come to Accra, the people in Accra get more than the people in Kumasi or Tamale. So it became an issue that they were discussing. So within that period, Peter told the people, "Get us together and let's cast lots. Let us vote and appoint a leader who will be in charge." That is a democratic way of allocating leadership.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about politics, politics is more like a system to bring leaders in a society. Politics is not governance.
Okay.
Politics is the system to bring out a leader for governance.
Okay.
So, in every political era, there are styles of governance. Now, there can be politics can come in the form of wars. So there can be political wars, a war which is political. A typical example is when the president of the United States of America went to another country, took their president, and colonized the country. He has made the country now a subsection of America. That is a political governance. That is a political war. Now, politics can go through other means. It can go through the democratic means, whereby we vote and we appoint a leader. Now, it can also go through the theocratic means.
Okay.
Now, most of the times in governance, we don't really talk about theocratic style of governance. Most of the times, when we're talking about governance, we're talking about type of governance, talk about the laissez-faire, we talk about the democracy, talk about the monarchy, but we omit the theocratic. Now, if you read the Bible, if you go to the book of 1 Samuel, the Bible says God appointed Samuel to be the messianic priest. When we say a messianic priest, is a priest who is a king, a prophet, and a judge. So Samuel was king over the people. But you know what? That's what Samuel taught. That's what we all taught. That's what theologians even taught. But when the people rejected Samuel, the Bible says Samuel went to God in prayer, and God told Samuel that Samuel, the people did not reject you, Samuel. The people rejected me because you were an ambassador of me to the people. In other words,
okay, before you continue, guys, we are speaking to a theologian, okay? Speaking to a man of God. And so certain things he's saying over here, we are here to learn from him. All right. So do your kind justice, also leave your thoughts in the comment section for us to know what if he's saying is making sense to you. And we can also, try and also like argue with him in a very respectful way. Argue with us and let us know what you're also thinking. So you can add up and also multiply what we are sharing here.
Sure.
Right? Let's go.
So Samuel thought he was a messianic priest. Samuel thought he was in charge. But the truth is, God was leading the country. And he made a representative stand in for. So if you come to, in Ghana, we have an American embassy in Ghana.
Yes.
We have a British embassy in Ghana.
Yeah.
The person representing the British embassy in Ghana is not the president of that country, but he takes steps after the president of that country to the country in Ghana of which the embassy is in. That person is like the president of that nation in that country. So if you want to communicate an information,
the person in this country representing
the other country. A typical example is South Africa. Our lovely friends in South Africa.
Yes, our lovely friends. Very friendly friends. Yeah.
The time that our foreign minister wanted to, that's Honorable Okudeto Ablakwa, wanted to interact with them, the first call of contact he made was to speak to their ambassadors.
Yes.
Now, speaking to the ambassadors in a nice way, he was actually speaking to the president.
Yeah.
Because the president is a representative of that country. In our country.
Yes.
So Samuel was like an ambassador of God to the people of Israel. So he was reigning like a king, but he wasn't the king. God was the king. And that type of governance is called the theocratic system. A typical example of a church that acts in that way, or that use the theocratic system in its real sense. I don't know whether they've diluted it now, I don't know. But we knew them to be like that. Was the Church of Pentecost. Is the Church of Pentecost.
Okay.
Whereby if they are appointing a leader, what they do is they appoint people to go and fast and pray. And those people are supposed to bring it in. But you know something? It's sometimes when these traditions go through generations, it gets diluted. It gets diluted in a way that if I am rich, I'm not saying that's what happened in the Pentecost. No, I'm just saying that it can happen. Okay. So if I am rich and I can pay my way, I can pay you to come and prophesy for me, which is dangerous. You don't pay prophets to prophesy in a particular way. And I don't think the Church of Pentecost ever did that. But it is something that can happen. So due to that, I learned that the Church of Pentecost have added a democratic arena to the theocratic system that they use. So there's a theocratic system, there's a democratic system in churches. Now, when it becomes too theocratic, sometimes the people feel that their voice is not being heard.
When it becomes too theocratic, the people feel their voice is not being heard. The members of the church.
The church. So let's say, in every church, we have people we feel that they are working. People we feel like, Charlie, this guy is supposed to be prayer secretary. This guy, the way he's doing his organizing, he's supposed to be the organizer. The way he's doing evangelism, he's supposed to be the evangelism coordinator. So now, if you make it theocratic in a way, then when you go and pray, God searches through the heart. But man looks at the inward, outer, sorry. So man will look at what you are doing to say you deserve it. But God will see your heart and say you are not supposed to have it.
Okay, now, so making reference to the video, could that be the possible reason those in the church wanted their own member?
It is very possible. I'm not saying those who wanted their own member actually thought that the other person is not godly. Or I'm not saying it's vice versa. I'm not saying that the person those who wanted their own member, the person who was coming in from those people, his inward was bad. No, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm just explaining my point.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is God looks at the inward. Now, as we are sitting here, maybe I am when you are still within pastors and you're not a pastor, you might think that the pastors pray more than you. But if you live with pastors, you get to know that some pastors don't pray. So inwardly, I'm not saying that pastors, those who don't pray are bad. No.
This is a revelation, It's revealing something,
What I'm trying to say is that God looks at the inward. So if it becomes theocratic, like when Samuel stepped down, look at how God appointed his king. Saul's donkey got missing. Saul looked through the whole community, did not find the donkey. And one of Saul's servants said, let us go and meet the prophet. He is a prophet. He will know where the donkey is. Then the Lord told Saul that someone is looking for his donkey. He will come here. He is looking for a donkey, but I am looking for my king. So anoint him as the king. That was how Saul was anointed. There was no political gathering. There was no diplomatic negotiations. There was no candidature. There was no elections. There was nothing.
Okay, so I might be ignorant about what happened. The story I'm telling in the Bible. So Saul was revealed.
Yes.
Something by God. So you're spoken to by God directly?
No, Samuel got the revelation.
Okay.
Saul lost his animal, and the servant of Saul directed Saul to go and see the prophet.
Okay.
And in fact, from that sense, that is where people pay consultation fee, because the servant of Saul said, you are going to a prophet, you can't go empty-handed. So they planned to give the prophet something. In meeting the prophet, God revealed their meeting to the prophet and told him that this man will come looking for a horse, a donkey, sorry. But you will have to anoint him to become king, because I, the Lord, am looking for a king. Now look at how God anointed David. That's the successor of Saul. God sent Samuel to the house of Jesse. And he told Samuel to anoint a son of Jesse. Now, when he got there, the father of David selected people who looked like kings, and David was not counted. In fact, there's a theological reason why his father did not call David. It was not wickedness. David really, according to structure, did not look like a king. We'll talk about that another time.
So this ties directly to what's going on.
Yes.
Okay, because David's father was probably looking at the outward appearance. And how stout his other sons were.
And now people will see that the king should be,
stout and boleyn. He should look like he's the leader.
So Jesse had an opinion. but God had his opinion.
But don't you think also that David, in a way, took the birthright of his, not to veer off course?
It's interesting, but it's not so. Now, when Samuel got there, look at what Samuel said. Samuel saw the young men of Jesse and said, these people look like kings. Yes, Lord, you directed me to the right house. Let me anoint one. Who am I supposed to anoint? Then the Lord told Samuel, the king is not here. Then interestingly, you know what happened? Jesse said, I have one son, but he is looking after the sheep somewhere. You know you're about to receive a visitor. Then you send someone to go out.
Go out, yeah.
Then Samuel said, I will not sit down. That means I will keep standing. He's an old man. I will not sit down till David comes.
Okay.
Now watch this. David appeared. Then Samuel told God, surely, oh Lord, this is not the king. In other words, David did not look like a king.
That's what Samuel told.
Yes, that's what Samuel told God. And that was when God responded by saying, anoint this son, because men looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the inner. So sometimes God can anoint someone because of the inner component of the person, not the outward. Bringing it to the context of the whole story. The people might have an opinion. The head office might have an opinion too. Both of them might be very right.
Okay.
But maybe the king might not even be between the two of them.
Okay.
Sometimes God has a very funny sense of humor. The people God appoints and anoints are the people that men would always reject.
Is it a general something? Is it all the time? Is there an exception to it?
Funny enough, when you listen to the stories of great people, it looks like it's all the time.
Really?
Because the Bible says God takes the foolish things of this world as a sample for the wise. He shows the wise that he knows how to use the foolish things of this world. God does not pick the smart ones. Sometimes he picks people and he makes them smart.
Wow.
So at the time you are seeing the person, he looks smart. But when God is picking, at the time of his picking, he doesn't pick already finished goats.
So just to add,
in other words, if God becomes
to add what you're saying, right? Sorry for cutting you. Is this God's way of making miracles happen?
It is God's way of making you know that he's always in charge. Kings always want you to know that they are in charge. Every king wants you to know that I am in charge. So for you to know that he's in charge, even when you become big, he picks you at a state that nobody will recognize you. Then he polishes you and makes you what everybody will want to be. So now if you become that, you will still give glory to God. When God called Samuel, when God called Saul, at the time God called Saul, Saul was not even thinking of throne. His people did not presume that you become king, but he was anointed king. There might be people around the king, the prophet, who might be who might think, hey, if we are rejecting this, for the people to agitate that we should need a new king, it means that someone got the idea. There cannot be the demonstration without a leader.
There cannot be demonstration without a leader.
No. So if you don't
make me understand this.
If you don't arrest the leader,
explain to me better.
If you don't, if there's any uprise, there is someone causing that uprise.
So
if there's
no smoke without fire.
There's no smoke without fire. So if there was an uprise from the people claiming they need a king, there might be someone maybe sitting close by someone who thinks that if I bring this agitation, the people will say, then let's pick someone around someone. Look at who the person God picked. He had nothing to do with priesthood. He was not around the prophet, who was the king, who was a priest. He had no connection to do with him. He was the one the Lord picked from outside and brought to the throne, and he made king. In other words, when God is speaking, he doesn't pick the obvious option of people.
Okay, so are you saying
if God becomes the blaster coach, if God becomes the blaster coach and they appoint God like they appointed the current coach, I will be scared of the results of the work. Do you know why? He will pick people that you have to build within time. That is why sometimes after he anoints David, he doesn't take David to the throne instantly. He takes David to the wilderness.
Okay.
So you are David, you are anointed with the oil of the throne, but you find yourself in the wilderness and you'll be wondering, why am I in the wilderness? You are being prepared for the throne. Because at the stage that you are in, if we give you the throne, you dismantle Israel. So you have to go to the wilderness, learn how to fight with the fox, learn how to wrestle the lion. Then we'll give you the throne after you have passed through. But God will appoint you before He trains you.
God will appoint you before He trains you. Okay, so are we saying that the nationalism is being brought, right, suggested by
the head office,
or whatever, is the David right here?
It's very
because like people don't want a guy from the head office. They want the guy from within them.
In fact, as I first said, sometimes what God appoints, people reject. And it can also be that what the leadership have collectively appointed, God has rejected.
What the leadership have collectively appointed, God has rejected. Okay.
And it can also be that God has appointed none.
Hey, that's all. So that telling me there means that everything is possible.
Yes.
Everything is possible.
Something. In life, God created everything in a way that is like plantation. So everything is like you plant and you harvest. Everything under the sun. That's what the Bible says. As long as the heavens and the earth remain, seed time and harvest time will never fade. So everything operates like planting and harvesting.
Okay.
So you always reap what you sow. Now God might have a plan, but your ways can change it.
Okay. God might have a plan, but your ways will change it for the better or for the worse.
That's dependent on what you do. So you get the consequence of what you planted. So everything operates like that. So it is possible. Now, why am I saying it is possible? I am in no stature or I am in no position at the moment to tell you who has been anointed by God or not. But what I can say is that you can be anointed by men, but you will not be carrying the oil of God. And you can be sitting on the stool before men, but before God, you have been dethroned. When David got anointed, someone went to David, Saul, and told Saul, the Lord has rejected you and has appointed a different person. And that was why Saul got angry with David. Before God anointed David, David was the one playing his harp, singing music, and his music was so anointed that the demons that possessed Saul at that time will leave when David sings music. So David was a friend of Saul. That was why David had a best friend, and his best friend was Jonathan, who was Saul's son, because David was always in the palace. And that was why David had so much great of a respect to Saul, in a way that when he saw Saul in a vulnerable state, he still did not kill Saul. Because of the relationship they previously had. You can get an enemy that you still respect.
Yes, that's true.
So now Saul and David, after David got anointed, David went to the wilderness. But Saul kept sitting on the throne for many years. And the question is, if David is anointed king and Saul has been rejected, why is David still in the wilderness and Saul is on the throne? That is because God can bestow you, but you still be on the throne.
Yeah, you can be a king who is in the wilderness.
Yes, and you can be a king in the wilderness. Listen, there are so many pastors who are anointed to become global pastors, but they are still speaking to 3 people. There are so many politicians who are supposed to be big politicians, who are just at the sideline. You have been anointed. Everybody sees the oil on you. Everybody can attest that the hand of God and kasa is on you. But you have to go to the wilderness. The wilderness is your state of preparation. David was supposed to be on the throne, anointed for the throne. He met Saul in a vulnerable state, but did not fight for God.
Okay.
If you are supposed to be on the throne, you don't have to fight for God.
If you're on the throne, you don't fight for God.
Yes, the last section I said it. You know, people think that it is in their possession to fight for God. The reason why this demonstration is going on is because a group of people, maybe somebody has decided to fight for God. Because if you don't fight, people will do what they want to do. No.
So the person has incited other people to stand against.
I'm not saying that, but it's possible. You don't have to fight for God. Because maybe Saul is just sitting on the throne for 5 years. Maybe Saul is just gathering things for you. He will leave very soon.
So if you're not fighting for God, what are we doing for God?
You know, you are not supposed to fight for God. And that's video I said it. You are supposed to serve God. In other words, you're supposed to follow the plan of God. Now, David met Saul in a vulnerable state and did not kill Saul. What he did was he cut the garment, he cut the clothes, the garment of Saul, and he showed it to Saul that, see, I saw you vulnerable when you were sleeping. I didn't kill you. So I can kill you, but I'll not kill you.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to kill you, Saul, because the Lord had commanded that touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. And you have been anointed to be king before. So because I want to be in your place, I will not fight what I'm about to become.
Okay.
I told a friend that if you want to become something, don't fight it.
Don't fight it. And I agree with you.
There are some pastors that many years ago, before they became big pastors, they opposed having titles. If you're a bit mature, you know the pastor I'm talking about, which I'll not mention his name. They opposed having titles. They opposed having even reverend by your name. But today, they have huge titles, which I'll not mention their names. Now, you are not supposed to fight what you want to become. Sometimes what you want to become, you might not look like it. And you might feel jealous because that what you want to become is bubbling in you. And because it's in you as David, when you see Saul, you see a lot of mistakes in Saul. You will see that Saul, you could have done this better. So you could have done this. Why didn't you do this? Maybe God has anointed you, but the anointing on that person can fight you. That is why you are not supposed to fight somebody who has been anointed by God. If God puts them on the stool and God wants you to become king, God knows what to do by himself to make you king and take him out.
Okay, makes sense. Because even with that, you see, when you fight someone who is ahead of you, right, your predecessor, there's a high possibility of someone also behind you fighting you. And then you see how it was like when you were fighting someone.
When you were fighting for someone.
That's true.
So I think that what the church, the local church was supposed to do was to first pray about the matter. First of all,
Pray about the matter.
Pray about
But I believe they prayed about the matter. Don't you believe
You know something? There are a lot of things that some spiritual people do that you think they prayed about it, but really they did not.
Like what?
Emotions led them. You know something? Elijah commanded fire from heaven to burn the children. God responded to the prayer. Fire came and burned them. But when Jesus came, the disciples got disrespected by some people. Then they came to Jesus. Let us call fire like Elijah. And Jesus said, you don't know the spirit that lives in you. In other words, Jesus was trying to tell them that if Jesus, was in the shoes of Elijah, he might not have responded like Elijah did. I know Elijah is watching me in heaven right now. He's like, hey, this guy is tricking me. But the truth is that sometimes God will respond to the person because of the oil on the person. But maybe they did not pray about it. I think that, first of all, they could have prayed about the matter. They could have. You think that Mr. A deserves to be the leader of your church, and they brought Mr. B. Maybe Mr. A have served throughout his lifetime. They all saw him carrying cement. They all saw him. This man is just coming from Accra, coming to become the pastor. The people who sacrifice with him and himself know the pain they've gone through to attain that. So bringing in someone else might create agitations. But maybe first of all, you could have prayed about it. Secondly, that particular church, which is a very noble church in Ghana here, has a very good system and structure. you could have petitioned the system.
Mm.
And you know something?
Are you sure they did not do that?
I doubt they did, because that particular church really has its system is not that rigid towards successions. For that I can tell. Yes. Yes. It's not that rigid that they always take pastors from head office. No.
Sometimes they keep their own pastors from
I know some pastors personally that I've sat with before, like I'm sitting with you, who are pastors who have handed over to another person. They handed over to people they trained.
Okay.
I have read in some of their churches before, so I know what I'm saying.
So this is all the politics.
So it is politics, but I think that it could have been handled in a different way. Now, sometimes in showing forth your anger, sometimes you overstep the bounds.
Yeah, that's true.
Because for the police to come in to close the church, it means that distractions started happening.
Yes.
I think that they could have first of all prayed about it. Secondly, petition the church. I think that the church will have sat down with them and discussed things with them. And thirdly, I think that they could have allowed God to do his thing. So sometimes you have to learn how to trust God. Abraham told Isaac, when they were going to make the sacrifice, he told them that we don't know the animal we are going to use, but we know that we are with God. And God will give us something for the sacrifice. Sometimes you don't know the animal you are going to use for the sacrifice. But just believe that as long as you are with God, God will show you what to do. God will lead you to do the sacrifice.
Guys, this has been a very wonderful conversation with Pastor Julius. He has shared so much with us so far. And I think that normally with situations like this, next time, we should take better steps forward in solving it amicably. And I believe that there are certain things that we built for a long time over the years, and we shouldn't just let it go asunder because of a few hitches and because of some power, struggle and all that. So I believe that Pastor Julius will, finish up with a few words of encouragement and of wisdom, so that we can call it a day.
I stand to be corrected, but it looks like last week Sunday that particular church didn't have a service, and it's not the best.
Really?
Yes, it's not the best. I think that the church should sit down with the people and find a way to solve this amicably, because sometimes it's painful when you go through the process. You pass the trail, and when it gets to the glory, someone else comes for it.
Yeah.
Yes, but sometimes I feel like the church might know why, because that is not the nature of that particular church. So I think that the church and the local assembly should just sit down and settle things quickly, so that next week Sunday they have a service.
A service, yes. Yeah. Wow, that was powerful. Guys, we've come to the end of the discussion. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe to your friends. Let's build this community together. See you in the next one.